Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today we will be doing a movie review with author Bob Plante of the 2013 movie, The Counselor. This movie was directed by Ridley Scott and written by Cormac McCarthy. So I'm sure you can imagine, if you have not seen it, that it's more than just very interesting. It's extremely interesting. I'm glad Bob recommended this to me because I'd never heard of it. And he's a movie aficionado, and he's a pretty smart guy. So we kind of break this one down pretty deep, which it's a good episode. I think people will like it. And if you have never seen the movie, you should watch it. And if you have seen the movie, please feel free to comment in the comment section and let me know what you thought of it. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, comment, share the video if you think there's other people who might like it. If you're listening to the podcast version, wherever you get your podcast content, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. That stuff is extremely helpful, and we appreciate all the support we get from everybody. And follow us on all the social media at Anyway Whatever Podcast. And let's get to the episode. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today we are doing a movie review with my friend Bob Plante of Palm Springs, California. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Mike.
Bob sent me the 2013 movie, The Counselor, to review. It is directed by Ridley Scott and written by Cormac McCarthy. And for people not familiar with Cormac McCarthy, you may know him by his other Hollywood movies, The Road and No Country for Old Men. And he's a pretty famous author overall. And I think this was the first direct-to-script story he ever wrote that wasn't an adaptation of one of his books already. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was his first original screenplay. He's had a few movies adapted over the years. Some of them not so good, like All the Pretty Horses with Matt Damon that Bob Thornton directed. Really good book. The movie, I guess, was kind of hijacked by the studio and recut and taken out of Thornton's hands. But The Road, and especially No Country for Old Men, were really well done and well received. Ridley Scott directed. It's his 21st feature, I believe. Wow. Came out in October 2013. It was a mid-budget picture, maybe $25 million. Actually shot in London and Spain, with Spain taking the place for the southwestern United States.
Sure. The Mexican border,
yeah,
if you will.
Yeah. I believe it was an independent production, studio film, but it was independent production by the same team that did The Road. Okay. Not well received, but a picture I'm kind of strangely obsessed with. I don't know why, but I've seen this picture over and over. I was kind of just dumbstruck by the nihilism in the movie. And it's a sort of marriage between McCarthy's really kind of Spartan storyline with hardly any exposition, like he's never read a screenwriting how-to, in his life,
right?
Which was a good thing. And a marriage between that's kind of really Spartan style of storytelling with the sort of lush visual style that Ridley Scott's known for.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Cormac McCarthy's kind of ethos, like one of his core beliefs about storytelling, is that it should be something that's realistic, or that could actually happen. So people tend to speak and act very much like normal people would speak and act. And I think that was probably my favorite thing about No Country for Old Men, is you just felt like what a crime situation in a small Texas town, how that would actually, even when that movie's going 1,000 miles an hour, it's still snail pace crawling. You know what I mean? And I think that there's definitely a craft to that, and that's Coen Brothers, and I'm a huge Coen Brothers movie fan. Yeah, so that's the thing about McCarthy for me, is that he's always, his big deal is like, this should seem like it's a real thing, and in regards to this film, the thing that I really liked about it, and it's a thing that draws me to films a lot of the times, is you feel like you're the third person in the conversation, just standing there holding your drink, listening to these people talk, and you have to figure out what they're talking about by actually paying attention, rather than it being spoon-fed to you by some Hollywood director. And so it has it is if it is anything, it is chock full of that, like, observational, nearly cinema verite kind of feel to it. Let me run real quick down the cast list. It's got Penelope Cruz, Cameron Diaz, Javier Bardem, Brad Pitt, and the main star, the titular character, is Michael Fassbender, who plays the counselor. And so the cast is rock solid. Those are all really quality, well-seasoned entertainers. And, I did not see Brad Pitt coming, and I wasn't very aware of this movie, which was surprising to me, because my wife being in the industry, we get, Oscar screeners. And so we get almost everything, especially things that aren't necessarily, destined for the trophies. And, so I'm surprised that we didn't get this. So I didn't know anything about it, and Brad Pitt for me was like kind of the sleeper in this one, because he just plays such a low key character the whole time, and there's a lot of really good monologues. There's 3 main monologues in this movie, and his one, and his like kind of big one it's really good. He's really good in this. Yeah,
he's good. It's No Country for Old Men, just to swing back to that, was like a pretty much, in the novel form, was pretty much a straightforward crime thriller. And thematically, it was about sort of the beginnings of the border drug trade. Mm-hmm. This movie, in a way, is a thematic sequel in that it shows the consequences of decades of this whole business, and how it shows the cartel is almost an omniscient force that's just capable of anything. It has all the money it can stuff into its walls. It has all the cars. It has all the ammo. It has all the people it needs, the bodies to throw at any problem, technology, everything. And so it's almost like this invisible enemy that's everywhere. So the story being that this sort of shifty counselor decides to get into a drug deal with his client, Javier Bardem, who was in No Country for Old Men. Course.
One of the best villains of all time.
Great villain, playing a totally different character here, a sort of flashy playboy.
Different. Completely different.
He's like the sleazy playboy. Most of his dialogue is about women and problems with women. And he hooks up with Cameron Diaz, who plays a sort of exotic,
gold digger type. From one rich dude to the next to support a life of leisure.
Yeah.
And she's really, really good. She's really good in it.
She's ice cold. He realizes Bardem kind of plays the movie like he knows he's in over his head.
Right.
He knows there's something up with this woman. He doesn't know what it is, but he's kind of scared shitless about it.
Right.
But still, the movie's telling you the cartel's the enemy, because something happens in the movie that sort of puts the characters in jeopardy, in a jackpot. Sure. And Pitt's character, he's sort of the middleman that facilitates a deal between the main characters and the cartel. And he's, in his monologue and others, they're all sort of warning the counselor about, what you're getting into. You know what you're doing. Once you put your foot into this world, there's no one going back to the other world. Right. And multiple characters say this in different ways throughout the movie. And it's in a way, when you first watch it, because there's so little exposition compared to most Hollywood movies that give, instead of, most movies will tell you, here's 5, where a clever movie will say, here's 2, here's 3, and let you figure it out. With this movie, it's a little hard to follow at first because there's not a lot of exposition. You're kind of put midway into a conversation, like you were saying. It feels like real dialogue.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the story is actually really straightforwred. It's about getting yourself into a situation you shouldn't have gotten into.
Hold on a sec, Bob. You cut out.
Mm-hmm.
Just go back to
Okay.
what the movie's about for you. Like just a few seconds before where you were at.
Okay. Yeah. It's basically, even though it's a little bit hard to follow, it seems hard to follow at first. The movie is actually a pretty simple morality tale about getting yourself into a situation that you're not supposed to get yourself into, and one little coincidence can just throw off your whole world.
Right. Yeah. That was the thing too. Is it's like it did a good job without giving too many spoilers. I mean, I feel like this is a movie that I'm going to want people to go watch because it was under appreciated when it was out, 7 years ago. But so to not give away too much of it, they do a good job of creating a situation where somebody's in a bad spot by no fault of their own, even though that they were warned that could be what happens. And you feel so tense for that person because there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. And there's nothing anybody in the movie is going to try to help them do about it. And so it gets really, really uncomfortable once we start going down that road.
It's like a tourniquet of dread is slowly spun.
Yes.
Once that coincidence happens.
And it's like it's like a slow ramp. It's like a skateboard ramp. It's like the transition is flat, and then once it starts hitting the vertical, it starts going really fast. The things unwind really fast and in a really, really, it's a brutal movie. Once it gets brutal, it's heartless and brutal, much like anything Cormac McCarthy has ever written that I'm aware of, like The Road and No Country. It's so brutal and like disconnected brutality. There's no malice in any of it. It's just business as usual. There's a really great monologue by Ruben Blades, who plays the cartel chief.
El Jefe.
And his monologue is it's worth watching the movie to get to the end for that part alone. I mean, it's a great movie and you're going to enjoy it all the way through. But his monologue where he's talking with the counselor and explaining that whole thing of like, you can keep trying to dig out of the hole, but all you're going to do is pull in more dirt. That whole monologue it's fucking amazing. And Ruben Blades is an underappreciated actor in general, and he just knocks it all the way out of the park here.
Yeah, it's really kind of like almost like a feast to just watch him deliver this monologue. It's just one of those scenes you can watch over and over, sort of like the Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken dialogue and True Romance. One of those scenes you just put that on just to watch that scene.
Right.
But he's Ruben Blades. I mean, great actor, decades of work, and this movie is kind of peppered with these small parts with really talented actors. Bruno Ganz, the Swiss actor Dean Norris from Breaking Bad, Edgar Ramirez, Argentinian actor, plays a priest in it, and everyone's great. It's got a strange sort of structure to it that is a little off-putting. That might have been part of the reason why it didn't do good. And of course, with a lot of these movies, it's the way they're marketed that can be their downfall. This was marketed as kind of a sexy Hollywood thriller with big movie stars. No, we're going to draw you in with these movie stars, and we're going to dump you in the desert in the Southwest with nothing, and we're going to send all these things to you and see what happens.
A giant shitstorm. I would say that Cameron Diaz is one of those actresses that when I think about her, I'm like, oh, she's in a bunch of like kind of movies like, the fucking what is that 70s TV show that she did the movie for, Charlie's Angels, and those movies are not for me. I know people like them, and if you do, that's fantastic. I'm not shitting on that. They're just not my thing. And so when I think about her in things like that, or like rom-coms, or the movies that are generally outside of my normal movie watching genre. Although she was in The Mask, and she was fantastic in The Mask, and that is a hilarious movie that I watched not that long ago and actually holds up incredibly well for what it is. But so when I saw her in this, I was like, eh. And then she's a really good job, and she definitely facilitates the Hollywood sexy part of that of the promotional package, because she plays like a wicked, like, red hot, gold digger. She's got crazy exotic tattoos, and she has these two cheetahs as pets, and she
walks around in Versace all outfits,
right, and
drives a sports car.
There's not one single bit of shame in her about any of it too, and she's. Yeah. That was another thing that I really liked about it. Is I'm a huge car nerd, and so there's a lot of really, really cool, like high end supercars in it, Ferraris that you don't see every day and shit like that. That's really cool. And that's kind of Javier Bardem's character, like you said, like he's like a playboy and all that. And he plays one of these rich guys in it, and I live in Los Angeles. So once in a while I find myself at a party with a dude like this who has so much money that money doesn't mean anything anymore. And so that can be annoying to somebody who has never had any money. And so, I mean, it's perfectly played by Bardem. Like his outfits are like, nobody would dress like that unless they just didn't have any concept of, what money was. Cause I think that sometimes people get so much money that they dive into style that is void of style. It's just rich guy style or rich girl style. And they, like him and Cameron Diaz both, like they really nail that, like that idol rich kind of characters. And so, when Javier Bardem finds himself in trouble, that happens real fast and it's really gnarly. It's like really, really gnarly. And the same with the Brad Pitt character. When he finds himself in trouble, his storyline arcs really fast.
It's pretty grim.
It's very grim. Every single goddamn part of this movie is very grim. Even the part where they're trying to make you, think these people are cool because they're flossing their lifestyle. It's still, the tone is still menacing. And I think a lot of that also, Ridley Scott is if he's good at any single thing, and he's good at a lot of things, he's good at setting a tone, like with Blade Runner. Like the look and the tone and the feel of that film is, you understand it immediately, and it's unrelenting the entire time. And same thing with Alien, same thing with Gladiator, and like he just is really, really good at that, and he does it perfectly here. Like he sets the tone early with the look, and even with the lighting direction, it's consistent all the way through, and it's menacing. For me, I'd say on the Mike Fisher scale, I'm gonna put this as like a 14 or 15 out of 16. It was way up there for me. I'll watch it again. I know it's a movie that you've watched frequently to try to gather a better understanding of it, because it's they don't feed you anything here really. And so it's going to go, like, I watch the same movies over and over, because as an artist, if a movie is a piece of art, which I think movies are, I can look at the same piece of art over and over. I can listen to the same song over and over again if it's something I appreciate. And this is going to go in the I'm going to watch this over again queue. And I'm glad that you gave it to me to watch, because I would have never probably ever spent the time with it otherwise.
That's the thing. It's sort of it didn't do very well in the box office, and it was kind of piled on in a kind of sleazy way by critics. They didn't just not like it; they hated it. But a lot of movies over the years, and the first one that comes to mind is Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, were just completely shat on when they came out. And of course, critical revision over the years, they get reevaluated, and people actually love them after a while. I kind of have the feeling this movie might be like that. I mean, it has its fans. I know Guillermo del Toro came out publicly with it. I think an article or an interview. He talked about how great it was, and I like this the merging of McCarthy's style with these very simple things that happened with these philosophical conversations, and Ridley Scott. I'm hot and cold on his movies.
Same here.
See some good ones, some ones I don't like. But they all have one thing in common: is they all look great. I think he has probably dedicated crew just regulars that work on the set, design, art direction,
art directors, production designers, his director of photography. I'm sure those are all like, you know, like Tarantino is the same thing. It's like the same crew, so you get the same results more or less, you know. Yeah, I think that, you know, like I kind of touched on right in the beginning, is I knew nothing about it. And then, you know, immediately you just look at who's in it, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch a movie with those particular people in it. But then I see Ridley Scott and I see Cormac McCarthy, and I'm like, well, fuck. Okay. I will definitely, those are names that are good enough for me to buy into at least giving it a shot. And I'm glad I did, because I really, really liked it a lot. And I highly recommend it. I think people should try to find this movie. I believe it's available on Prime and, you know, wherever else you get your movie rental stuff. I don't think I could find it for free anywhere, but rather than spending $4 to rent it on Amazon Prime, I bought it. Like I went and bought it. Cause it's Cormac McCarthy, and I knew that I was gonna, you know, so yeah, that's where I was at with it overall. I mean, you know, again, I recommend, and I'm glad Bob sent it to me to watch. I'm, you know, to touch on the Fire Walk with Me thing, me and Bob, actually recorded an episode, and it didn't turn out. There was a technical problem, so we were re-recording some stuff here, and we sat and rambled on about David Lynch for quite a while, actually. And so now what I want to do is I want you to come up with a Lynch movie to watch, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the David Lynch thing. One of the things that this has become, it started out and it's still kind of called a movie review, but this is just, it's really become me talking to my my friends about cool movies rather than trying to review them, because you know that is in the end kind of inconsequential to the whole thing. So I hope that you'll be back, and that you'll give me maybe we'll do David Lynch next time, because I'm a huge fan of Lynch, other than, you know, we went over other than Dune maybe.
That sounds great. I'm a huge fan since I was a kid, and I certainly have a lot to talk about for whatever movie. So it sounds good.
Cool. Awesome, Bob. Thanks for coming in, and I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Mike.